Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everybody to my second Facebook Live I've actually did in this nice pop-up group. Welcome to how to legally protect your online business as well as your regular business as well too. I know the flyer had said online business, but I was like, you know what? I had a couple of people that actually joined that didn't have online businesses or they had like brick and mortar. So I'm just gonna make this a very general presentation for online businesses as well as regular business as well too. Welcome everybody. I'm so glad to actually have all of you here. When you come on, please say hi. This is also for all of you replay viewers as well too. So when you come on as a replay, just like you do a hashtag, so replay, so I can say hi and I can actually welcome you as if you were actually live here as well too. So I want to introduce myself to you. My name is Wani Iris Manly. I am the leader of this group. I am a corporate and business lawyer for 17 years. I am the founder of W. Manly PA, which is like my regular law firm, and I'm also the founder of a brand new company called Where Inspiration Meets Law that provides all of the legal contracts and templates and contract services and trademark intellectual property to coaches, to entrepreneurs, and online businesses and small business owners. So it's literally like a depot center for you to get all of your legal contracts to be met, to have a business be protected so you're not walking around to be a potential walk-in liability in a lawsuit. So I'm going to give you a very great and detailed workshop of everything you need to do from the beginning of starting a business to when you actually are growing. So you are not left behind. So you're right on track, and so you know exactly what you're doing. So you're not having this fear of legal, which I hear so much all the time lately, and I don't know why that is, because you're never need to be afraid of actually attorneys or the law, or especially as a business owner, maybe in other situations, perhaps, but if you have a business, there's no reason you should be Xing lawyers out, being afraid to actually talk to a lawyer or come and see one of us, because we're actually here to help you and to help you grow your business. And so for you to actually be focusing on really, really what matters, and which is actually running your business, servicing your clients, and actually making money and having an enjoyable life, and not be worried about like the legal tidbits and things like that. So a little bit about me. I'm licensed in the state of Florida, also as well as in Illinois as well too. I've been a lawyer for 17 years. I've have my own law firm for 12 years. I've also worked in-house counsel for Masterclass, for Visa. I've also worked in-house counsel for Office Depot as well too. Tons of other projects. I'm pretty global. I'm actually in this live stream from Paris, France, from my home. And my home base is actually Miami, and my law firm is based here. So I work pretty much globally. So that's my flow. I'm also a speaker as well too. I'm also a best-selling author. So I do have a different hats. If you're into human design, I'm a manifesting generator. So definitely I'm living my human design of having my foot in both worlds. An entrepreneur for 12 years, and I've never ever looked back. And so, but I'm very passionate about what I'm going to be talking about today, and that's really protecting your business legally. Because I'm in a corporate lawyer. I can tell you that, I was in law school. I graduated from law school in 2002 in Chicago. I went to law school in Italy as well as in Spain. And my favorite courses in law was about contracts, was about businesses and protecting business interests and intellectual property. And so when it comes to protecting your business, that area of the law, I'm pretty passionate about, as opposed to say criminal law, as opposed to family law, divorce law. In fact, I was just recently asked to give a referral. But when it comes to, I've been working with CEOs my entire life, my entire career. I've been working with individual business owners. So I just love how business owners are the visionaries. And so it's very, very important to really protect your vision, protect your passion, and to actually allow it to grow. And so I really want to come on here to you to help you actually do that. The first thing, before I get into the whole nuts and bolts of the legal pieces of it, I want to talk about mindset and when it comes to legal. Because what I notice in the entrepreneurial space is that so many entrepreneurs look at legal as something that they actually get when something goes wrong, rather than actually involve legal in it from the very beginning, at the inception of your business. I'm going to tell you right now that this is a mindset trick that, hey Andy, that you have to start to engage in. Because I'm going to tell you what, I've been working with corporations my entire career, And corporations knows what the deal is. Before they ever open up and put a sign up on the door saying we're open for business, the first person to go and see is they go and see an attorney, number one, and they go and see a CPA, number two, because they know very good well that their vitality depends upon lawyers. And so I want you as an entrepreneur to be thinking in that space, because what most entrepreneurs do is to wait until shit hits the fan, like when something actually goes wrong. They X out lawyers throughout the whole process, or they be very cheap about it, and then like they get to a point where something goes wrong, and then they have to seek out a lawyer's assistance, and it gets to be very, very expensive at that point. Where I'm asking you to say now is like, to see legal being very integral. And I'm going to also tell you from an energetic standpoint, in the last couple of months, I'm in 2 coaching programs. I heavily believe in investing in myself. I recently learned about energetic containers and energy cords between our businesses, right? When I started my law firm 12 years ago, I got my first client the day that I was laid off from my law firm. And I remember going to a party, not wanting to go there because I was super distraught. I had just bought a condo in Miami that was like $300,000. I had just bought my dream car 5 months before, a Porsche Boxster. I was like, oh my God, like how am I going to freaking be able to pay for everything, right? And I remember going to this party and my friend invited me to. Met my very first client. He was pretty high, he was connecting with he was starting a management company to manage celebrities, basketball players, NBA players, and NFL players, right? He hired me to actually set up this LLC corporation, and he was Jamaican. Because I was black, he was like, oh my God, I'm loving you. And so I started my career, or entrepreneur career, finding myself in situations where I was in rooms and meetings with pretty high caliber people, and I was so ill prepared. Even though I was a lawyer, I had nothing. I had no contracts. I was laid off from my firm unexpectedly. I didn't know, and so I didn't have anything set up, right? And so the level of like low confidence that I actually had, I remember like, at a mansion talking to Kim Kardashian's manager. I remember, being in meetings with Michael Strahan, all these like big celebrities and, NBA players. And I felt so little because I didn't have my legal shit together. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you were in a space thinking that I'm only going to get a lawyer whenever, like when I can afford to actually do it, it really is affecting your ability to actually get clients. I actually remember at that time, this is when Donald Trump had just came out with the show The Apprentice, and I remember going to one of the contestants who was on the show. She was, it was Katrina Kemkes, and I remember where I was there, she was with her business partner, Laura. They're selling $1 million real estate in Miami, and I'm literally like, they're like, blah, 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 because I'm with these like big wigs, and I literally had nothing, and it really affected my self-confidence. So your inability, or you're not having your legal ducks in a row, it's really affecting your ability to show up confidently and to actually get clients. And I'm also going to say too, because I'm in the online space, I'm in very much the coaching space, and it's literally like a zoo, because it's not regulated. Like, for example, I'm an attorney, so I have an ethical board that I have to report to, right? I have a license, right? And so I have to show up in a certain way. In the coaching industry, it's not. But I'm going to tell you right now, in an industry where, I've seen it all. Like, the latest thing now is people are coming on, like, dancing naked, which I don't quite get. And it's like professionalism actually matters. I'm currently right now in 2 coaching programs, and one of these programs that I'm actually in is someone who is like the luxury brand of personal development in this industry. Been in business for 20 years, and she's so professional. Everything is like up to the T, like above and beyond. Like the marketing materials, the coaching, the staff, the protocols, it really speaks volumes to people, right? And so I just want to just implore that upon you. So when you're showing up, that legal really matters from an energetic standpoint, as well as too from how you're attracting clients. I'm telling you right now, this particular coach, I have no problems giving her my money, because I know I am invested not only into myself, but in a professional organization. So professionalism actually matters. And when you have all your legal ducks in a row, people recognize all of that, right? So just keep that in mind. And it really is, it's affecting your ability to actually get clients. I see so many coaches right now that are in this space where they're just getting started out, and they've reached out to me and it's like, oh my God, like, as soon as I get my money in a row, I'm gonna come and hire you. And they're investing in coaches to get that first client, and they're struggling. And, and they don't quite realize, and they don't have any clients, right? And they're not really seeing the fact is because from an energetic standpoint, they don't really quite have a business entity together. It's like everyone's saying, I'm a business owner. And it's like, are you really? You get to understand the mere fact of you setting up a corporation. I don't care where you're at, what country you're in. That's a legal act, okay? Setting up a business is legal compliance. It's a legal act. So therefore, you need to have all the legal ducks in a row and actually present yourself as a business, like from a compliance standpoint, from a legality standpoint, and also from an energetic container, because it's like you can't be saying to the universe, I'm a business, I'm a business, I'm a business, and you have nothing that actually reflects that, right? You don't have a contract. You don't have a corporate entity set up. You don't have a bank account set up like in a corporation, the name. You don't have an onboarding procedure. You don't have, if you're selling products, I know India, you have products, right? If you don't have your FDA labeling correctly done, right? It's like you're sending mixed messages to the actual universe. It's like the universe cannot bring you clients because you're not adequately prepared. It's like how when I was showing up when I first started, like in these like meetings with like these big people, I was like, oh my God, like I felt so little, right? Because I didn't have anything to really that was, really projecting myself out as a real business, so you need to really put that all into mind. I'm going to say to you that if you're in a position where you're just starting out, and you know what, before you put yourself out there and say, hey, I have a business, go see a lawyer first, and see a CPA first and get that first situated, and then put yourself out. Build the actual entity, build the container, and then go out there and get the clients. But what I see so often is the opposite around, where people are like, oh yeah, I have a business. They put up a social media post and it's like, okay, give me clients, and no one's coming. And I'm saying to you that everything is energy, it all matters, and legal is super, super important, right? So that's the whole energetic and the whole mindset shift that I actually want you to make from this. The first thing I want you to do, and if you already have a business, I know India you do, but I'm going to talk to people as if they actually don't, right? So the first thing is like you want to choose a name that you can actually keep, right? So I know a lot of people, they get this name, it gets like a divine download, and the next thing they're on social media, like, hey, this is my business, whatever, like that, and you're like, setting up products, courses, Facebook ads is like, hey, Slero. You want to make sure that before you even set up a name in a corporation, is you want to make sure it actually it's available, right? So the first thing is, because I said you want to make sure you have a name you can actually keep. So you want to go ahead and start doing some research about it. When you get a download for a business idea, it's like date the idea like you would a man, like you would a woman, right? It's like when you first meet a guy, it's like there's a courtship that actually happens. So I want you to start taking that approach to your business now you actually are formulating. You like date the ideas, date and just kind of like, get your research together before you pronounce to the world, hey, I'm a business. So the first thing is you want to make sure that your name is actually available, right? The first place you want to start is like go look at the patent and trademark office in the United States, or wherever you're in Bahamas, India, I know you are, or wherever your business is actually located, to see if the name that you're actually thinking about is actually a trademark. Because here's the deal: in many cities, in many countries, jurisdictions, a business name does not equal ownership. What that means is that you can have multiple companies that have the same business names. However, if one of those, that's not permissible unless it's a trademark has been filed, right? For example, my new company, Where Inspiration Meets Law, is an LLC that's in Florida. I also have a trademark with the Patent and Trademark Office in the U.S. There's an application in place, right, for the trademark for that. Even though in Florida you can have multiple names of the same company, if somebody else wanted to register the company Where Inspiration Meets Law INC, Where Inspiration Meets Law PLC, Where Inspiration Meets Law, whatever corporate entity, they would be stopped because I have a trademark with that. You understand? So you want to make sure that name is actually available. You can also go to websites called like Namecheap and just to see if that name is available. And then you want to look at, just do the domain search, or use Google and see, okay, is this name already available? And then, of course, you also want to go to the Secretary of State of the United States, or wherever, I don't know what it's called, but the government registration is usually the division of corporations where you actually register a company, and to see whether those names are actually available. And you want to just go ahead and do it with any. If you already see a name that's already taken, just figure out a different name for yourself and call it something completely different, and then you set up the corporation. That's what you want to do to make sure you can actually keep this name. The next thing is you want to do is to form your actual business, and you want to make sure you're forming in the correct corporate entity. And there's different types. So you have sole proprietor, you have U.S. wise, you have the LLC, you have the S corp, you have the INC, you have different partnerships, right? For everyone that's in this group that I've been able to look at their profile, you guys are all pretty much in business for yourself, right? So for you, you're either going to be looking at either setting yourself up as a sole proprietor or in the U.S. as an LLC. And I'm going to say that, okay, I'm a U.S.-based attorney. I can also, and I'm based in France right now, but every country has a very similar system to what the U.S. has, right? So every single company has a sole proprietorship. For example, here in France, it's called an auto-entrepreneur. And an LLC is considered here to be, it's called an SARL, right? So in the Bahamas, it may be, I don't know what it is in the, but it is something completely different, right? But there's very similar structures, it's just different names, right? So what most people will do is, and which is usually the cheapest in any jurisdiction, the easiest to set up a business, is they'll do like a sole proprietorship. And that's basically, it's like you yourself as a personal person are the business, right? And in typical fashion, it'd be like a DBA. So it'd be, for example, it'd be myself, Wani Manly, doing business as, ABC box, whatever like that. Even though that is a valid legal entity for a corporation, it's a bad choice to actually select, because you would then held personally liable to anything in the corporation if they were to get into trouble, right? If the corporation were to get sued, and if the corporation didn't have any money to actually fulfill like a judgment, if you were in the wrong, then your personal assets, whatever you own that's personally attached to you, which includes any properties, any tangible, intangible assets, it also includes your inheritances, your children's inheritances. So it's like literally everything is tied to you. So you are the business, like literally, figuratively, legally, and everything else. And so basically everything is actually fair game. So you want to avoid that at all costs. But I know why people actually do it, because it's super, super cheap. I know in Florida, I think it's like $55 to actually set it up. It's super, super cheap, but it's like, again, the personal liability is like you're personally liable for the debts, for the injuries that any of the corporation may cause. What you want to do is to actually set up an LLC, which means a limited liability corporation. Like I said, every jurisdiction has something very similar. And what it is that it's a corporation. However, you're a member of the corporation. However, if there was a lawsuit filed, whatever debts the LLC may have, you would not be subject to actually you would not be personally liable for it, unless you did certain things to actually not act like the LLC. And I'll tell you what those are. So, but you're protected, like on a personal level, you as a person and your assets and your inheritances and your homes, your cars, all those things are actually protected. However, there are certain things that you can do when you have an LLC that will make the court actually come to you personally. Number one is if you're not observing the corporate formalities of actually setting up an LLC, which just means, set up the LLC, number one, have an operating agreement, which is like the Bible of how hi Abraham, how the corporation actually operates, right? Number two, if you don't have the corporation adequately capitalized, like if you don't have money in there, if you have bank accounts and you're actually commingling, right? You're not acting like a valid LLC. Or if you set up the LLC and you go into different contractual agreements, like you're not signing off as a member of the LLC, but you put like in your own name. These are things you actually are doing that's not allowing you to you're not acting like a corporation. So therefore, the court can say, okay, we're going to come after your personal assets. So as long as you keep it all clean Keep the LLC the LLC. Keep it separate from your personal acts. You will be fine. You'll never be touched on a personal level, which is why it's a great choice if you're starting out. You can actually have a single member LLC, or you can have multiple members of the LLC. So it's super simple to actually set up, and then you can do it yourself, or you can actually have a lawyer actually do it for you. It doesn't matter, but it's like I said, no matter where you are in the world, there's similar types of setups of corporations. It just may call a different name. I don't quite know what they all are. I know France, because I'm actually in France right now, but I don't know what it would be in the Bahamas, right? So you want to do that, and then you want to go ahead and go to the IRS's website, and you want to get, it's called an EIN number, which is like the business social security number. It's free for you to get. And then if you make an S election, which is for tax purposes, make sure you know that you have 75 days after you you've set up the corporation. Otherwise, you lose that election to be an S corp. But you want to go ahead and make sure you add a business and savings account in the corporation's name. Again, do not commingle funds. It's pretty obvious. And then you also want to make sure you set up a PayPal account in the corporation's name, or if you have an existing PayPal account, you want to go ahead and convert your personal one to your business one. And then you want to go see a CPA and to basically really get set up, and make sure if you're online that you are talking to a CPA that actually is aware of online business. Because, for example, like I'm going live right now with you. Part of like my makeup that I bought, I can actually do a tax credit on some of these stuff, like my clothes I'm actually wearing. So, these things are actually deductible, so you want to make sure you're actually talking to a very competent CPA that actually knows your business and can get you set up with your quarterly statements. And just to get everything set up, like your bookkeeping, make sure you have all these things like really set up from the very, very beginning, because if you don't get into habit from the very beginning, you're then kind of go by the wayside, and it'll be harder to actually clean up. Or if you find yourself like in a tax audit from your country, like you don't have everything like us, it's a big mess. You don't really be in that position. So, and then you want to make sure you do your documents, your internal documents. So, for example, with an LLC, you want to make sure you set up the operating agreement. Now, in some states in the U.S., you need to file, when you're setting up the corporation, you need to file the operating agreement. Or if you set up a regular corporation, it's called the bylaws. If not, then you can do like amongst your business partners. Now, if you have a partnership agreement with other people, other partners, you want to make sure you have partnership agreements set up from the very, very beginning. I set up my career off as a litigant in Miami, and I'm going to tell you right now, women especially, right? Because women are just like, oh, I just trust you, and they tend to just mix business, right? And it's like, you can understand your business is your business, your friendships are your friendships, your family is your family, right? Treat your business like a business. If you have partners, make sure you have a written agreement between your partners about who's responsible for what, who pays for what, who gets what, who owns what. Because what happens is like a marriage. People get together, what shit happens, and the people break up, and guess what? People have to figure out, okay, I get this, I get that. And most of the time in these partnerships or business arrangements, people have nothing in paper, and they have to go to the court. And the court then has to decide as to who gets what. It is super freaking messy. It's like a divorce. It takes years. It takes tons of forensic accounting. It's super expensive. People get pissed off. People are like hiding asses like in Panama, in the Bahamas. I mean, it's nuts. So you want to avoid that from the very, very beginning. Before you do anything is to get these partnership agreements actually drawn up. And you do it with the lawyer, and you don't do it by yourself. What else? Okay, the next is you can look at insurance, right? So make sure, again, you want to make sure you're adequately protected. So does whatever business you have, even if you're online, if you're operating primarily online, check to see whether you actually need to have a specific business license, right? For example, and I know in Florida, you have to have an occupational license, right? They just set up now like a thing when you set up an LLC, you got to pay like $68 for some crap. I don't even know what it's actually for, but you actually have to pay for that. So you want to make sure you have adequate business insurance. Like for me, I'm a lawyer, so We don't have to, but it's recommended to have like malpractice insurance, right? If you're a therapist, you want to make sure you have like therapist insurance. If you, I know Indy, you're in like the natural products, right? So you want to make sure that you have some protection with you, that if someone were to use your products and they have an allergic reaction, that that you are not responsible because of the type of ingredients that's actually in your product. You want to make sure you're using disclaimers, right? So you just want to make sure you have this. You want to have insurance, and you want to make sure you tell the insurance company exactly what it is you're doing. You want to stick to it, and not cut the corners and not say, hey, I'm doing this, but then you're selling X, Y, and Z, because that's what I work for an insurance company, and it's like, what? If one thing is off, if one letter is off, they're not going to pay you. They're not, because they don't, insurance company, it sucks because the way that it is, it's like you pay all this money for insurance, but when you actually need them to actually pay out, they will look for everything in the book to not actually pay. So you want to make sure you're actually very careful with that. Then you want to look to actually like getting any type of licenses, right? So for example, if you are if you're doing cosmetology, right? Do you need a cosmetology license? Do you have a real estate license, right? Do you have a retail license? All of these different things, whatever license do you need to operate, right? And definitely make sure that, it's, even if you're online, you want to make sure, because people think because you're online, it's all like willy-nilly and you don't have any protocols, but like you want to make sure that everything is very legit from the very, very beginning. So, and then the next thing you want to look at is actually protecting your intellectual property, right? So now, this is talking about trademarks, this is talking about copyrights, we're talking about patents, right? So first and foremost, you want to start, when you get into business with yourself, when you even were thinking about it, you need to start looking at what is your proprietary information, your product, like what would make you, like your secret sauce that would, make you a gazillionaire, right? And you want to start limiting your talk about it to unnecessary people, and only be talking about it to people that are on a need-to-know business basis, right? People who work with you, your lawyers, your accountants, your assistants, right? And so you want to start using things like non-disclosure agreements, confidentiality agreements, and I'm going to tell you right now, before you start talking to anyone, you want to be giving a non-disclosure agreement to them, and if they don't want to actually sign it, do not do business with them, because that is literally a very harmless document, and it's just saying that, hey, I got, really proprietary stuff, I want to keep it that way, you probably do as well too, I'm going to share this with you, but you can't tell anybody, and you can't use my information, circumvent me, and to go make money off of it, right? So you want to start using those things, and so then you also want to file for trademark, for your unique ideas, your branding, your logos, your catchphrases for your brand. File federal protection, right? And I'm going to say that even if you're outside of the country, and the place for the country that is very robust in protecting people's intellectual property is the United States. Whereas every other country's like, it's okay, whatever. But in the United States, like, we don't play. So you want to make sure, even if you are out of the country, and I'm sure you have U.S.-based customers, and that's a hot market for, especially for coaching, right, or personal development, or even like product-based, right? So even if you are, like, for example, you're in the Bahamas, right? So for you, it makes sense, of course, because you're neighbors, right there. So you want to be filing, okay, in the Bahamas or the Caribbean, and you also want to be filing too for protection in the United States. So make sure you file for that. And I'm going to tell you right now that the great thing about the United States is that if someone were to infringe upon your trademark, you get triple damages, right? So for example, if someone was infringed upon your trademark that was actually filed, if you had a $10,000 claim and you won, you would get $40,000. The same thing with copyright. It's called, treble damages. So it's very, very important to actually get U.S. protection. And I know for Indy, for you have a product base. So for example, if you, for example, like your products, Bahama Breeze was being counterfeited and coming through customs, right? By having a federal trademark certificate or even an application, the customs borders can actually stop that infringing, you know, goods from actually coming in. So it really, really behooves you to really protect your trademark, things, trademark your information or your proprietary information. And before you do a trademark, make sure you do a trademark search. at the federal level, at the state level, and then to see for domains and like that. And so before you actually file trademark, to make sure that you don't have another similarly trademark that's actually out there that would make your application like not go through, right? Because you don't want to spend the whole money on there, and then the trademark about the office actually rejects it. Then you have your copyright, right? So these are things like your expressions, like your books, like your websites, your courses, and so you want to make sure that you are protecting that as well too. Yes, by virtue of just like putting things out there, meaning like, copyright is essentially like your literary expression, right? So anything that's expressive from you, it could be a song, it could be a poem, it could be a book, it could be a social media post, right? The minute you put it out there into the ether, or you express it, you fix it to a tangible medium, it is copyrightable, right? So yes, you could put a copyright symbol to put people in notice on it, and yes, it is copyright material. However, if you wanted to sue someone, if you discovered that someone stole your copyright and you want to sue them, you would not be allowed to walk into court unless you have a federal registration. So even though you don't necessarily have to file a registration to be able to have a copyright, however, in order for you to actually sue for copyright infringement, you need to have a registration. So essentially, a registration with, in this case, the U.S., or it could be wherever you're at, is actually key to the federal court or to the courthouse, right? So you want to do it. And you want to copyright like your most important thing. You want to put people on notice of everything. Even if you're not filing it right away, make sure everything you're putting has, the CC or the copyright symbol, your name of your company, all rights reserved, put the years on there. If it's been a copyright for 20 years, put, from 2000 to 2020, right? Let it be, put people on notice as to everything is copyrightable. You also want to make sure you have Google alerts. Like, for example, what that is that you can set up in Google where every time your name shows up on the internet, you get an email about it. That's what I do. And all of my companies, everything that I do, so my name has a Google alert on it, my books has a Google alert on it, my trademarks has a Google alert. So every time Wani Iris Manly is mentioned on the internet, every time in the name of my book, Get Out of Survival Mode to Live the Life You Really Want is mentioned on the internet, my new trademark, Where Inspiration Meets Law, I literally get an email and I see who's actually writing about me, right? So you want to make sure you set up a Google alert, and it's free, and it's forever, right? And so every time you're mentioned all over the internet, you know exactly, what's, that how is being used, and that's how you actually keep track of your trademark, and to make sure that your trademark is not being infringed upon, or your copyright as well too, because you have to monitor, right? And it's so important now because we're in the age of social media, we're in the age of information technology where everybody's online now. I mean, with COVID, where we're going, everything is digital. Everybody has to have an e-commerce business. Even if you're just walking a dog, you need to figure out how to show people how to walk a dog online, because at this point, no one's going to work in an office at this point. So it's and everybody's online. And I can tell you right now with the U.S. and Patent Trademark Office, like it takes a longer time to get approved or for the process to go through, because everyone's filing right now, because everyone's in business of some sort. And I want to say too is before you go out there and you put all your stuff in social media, because this actually happened to my PR rep, where she went and created, she had to pivot like most people have to do online. She's like a big Hollywood, or she's been in Hollywood PR for 20 years, and she found pivot online, had this great catchy name, created a course, created a quiz, a Facebook app, the whole 9 yards shebang, hired everybody, paid tons of money. And then she came to me and she's like, hey, can you check if this trademark is available? When I went and looked it up, literally 2 weeks before, someone had literally filed a trademark with the exact same name and the exact same category, and she couldn't use it at all. So you really, really want to, even if you think your idea it's novel, it was divine, download, intervention, listen, you have no idea, because billions of people in the world, everyone is online, everyone is, everyone's thinking, this is the age, when the age of Aquarius, if you follow astrology, where everyone's minds are expanding, everyone's thinking, everyone's how can I become the next, Steve Jobs, whatever, right? So everyone's protecting your information, so you want to make sure you're on top of all of that. Then the next part about making a business legal or legally protect yourself is your website. So on your website, you need to have one. You need to have a web presence of some sort online, right? Because that's how people find you. And you can run Facebook ads to grow your business, to monetize, to scale. It's just part of it at the moment. Not the moment, but for now and it's actually the future. So you need to have 3 documents, legal documents that's required for your website. Not all 3, but it's a privacy policy, terms and conditions, and disclaimers. The privacy policy is it's U.S. federal law, and it's also to international law because we now have GDPR. Even it's a European regulation, but it affects everyone around the world. If you were taking anyone's emails, which everyone's doing opt-ins and newsletters and things like that, so everybody has to have certain privacy policies and have the action, which basically is telling people how you're collecting their personal information, what are you doing with it, how are you storing it, how are you safekeeping it, that the people you are dealing with are being very prudent with your private information, and you want to make sure you're vetting people out. We all know what's happening in the United States with the whole Wayfair, right? And that was all part of where that was one part of their website was linked to child trafficking, right, or sex trafficking, right? So the people that you are, that these are called third parties, right? And so your privacy policy needs to actually speak to the third parties you're actually engaging with, that are handling your stuff. That could be Stripe, that could be PayPal, that could be, what's Moonclerk. Just off the top of my head, you want to make sure you vet those people or your website people, whomever you are connected to that's actually helping you to run your business infrastructure. You want to make sure that they are actually GDPR compliant as well too. They're not linked to some type of sex trafficking because you'll be actually responsible for that, right? So it's very, very important to make sure you have a privacy policy that that's on your web, and that's the law. The next thing is you want to have a terms and conditions, which is letting users know that are coming to your website, the terms of them coming on to this is your document, this is your domain, that everything you own is actually yours, and it's not infringing upon someone else's copyright, that you own all the information on there, and then what the rules and regulations are, and how they can behave by using your website. And then you will have some disclaimers on it as well too. There's certain legalese on there that tells people that, hey, you're not infringing people's right. And it's a reference to a digital Millennium Copyright Act. Then there's the COPA law, which is saying that this website is not it's not for users under 18 years old, and you're not connecting with children on there. And so that's very important for you to have as well too. And then you also need to be having these policies where people need to be able to reach you for any questions. You want to make sure that they actually have a right to unsubscribe if they're part of your newsletters and things of that sort. Then you also want to have a disclaimers page, right? So the disclaimers page is really disclaiming you from liabilities, right? So it's disclaiming you, for example, from technology. You're basically saying, hey, my website is as is, the way it's working. If you come to my website and for some reason that there's some bug in it and it destroys your computer, I'm not responsible, right? If you're a coach, you want to be using earnings disclaimer saying, hey, you know what? Yes, you're working with me, but all results, are not typical. Results are up to you. I'm not promising you to become a millionaire. If you are a therapist that's having a coaching business, saying, you want to do disclaiming that you're not a medical doctor. You're just, that you're acting as a coach, not as a psychotherapist. So you want to be disclaiming all possible liabilities that you could be sued upon. For me, mine would be about, this is just legal information by you coming to my website. Does not mean that I'm your attorney. There's an attorney-client privilege here. This is legal information, right? So you want to have all those things on there, and it's just super, super important. Do not go and just get somebody else's off the internet, because you want to make sure these are things that's drafted by a lawyer, number one, and you want to make sure there's actually to your business, okay? And it's actually relevant for your business. This week I've been talking to therapists that are offering coaching services, which is, and it's very important for them because they're regulated, right? They're not for coaching, there's no regulatory body for coaching, but for therapists, they're like lawyers, right? They have a license. But they can also offer coaching services too. But they have to be very, they have to walk a fine line of like not wearing two hats. When I'm a coach, I'm not giving you therapy, right? And so you want to make sure that your disclaimers like make sense for your business, right? So for example, Indy, you have the natural soap. So you would be disclaiming along, about allergies for certain ingredients, right? You would be, talking about, I don't know if your if your products are vegan tested, whatever like that. So you want to be just like giving disclaimers, letting people know that, you know what, these are the parameters. I'm not responsible for, what this is. I'm not promising you the whole world, and this is who I am. So this is super, super important. Definitely need to have it. This is like placed at the very bottom of your website, and these are just links to, people click on a link on there, and it just opens up like in different pages. So what else? And then you also want to abide by the FCC, so which is like the communications, right? So, for example, if you have if you're an affiliate, or if you have affiliate programs, you want to have an affiliate disclaimer at the bottom of your website. If you have a podcast, or if you have a YouTube channel and you've got sponsorship deals, right, where people are are paying you money to promote their products, so you need to be expressly saying in your podcast, like, hey, this podcast is sponsored by, ABC company who's, paying me money to promote their products, right? And so you want to be actually saying that as well, too. So you want to be making sure that you are abiding by the FTC rules, or FCC rules rather. And I can tell you for coaches, even though the coaching industry is not regulated, the governing body that's actually going after it is the FCC. Okay, because of all the ridiculous claims of, hey, I made $1 million, you know what I mean? And there's no backup report about that, right? So, and I actually haven't seen regulation coming through or lawsuits being filed for that. What else? Did I miss anything? Yeah, you also want to be compliant with anti-spam, like don't be spamming people. Of course, making sure that you are safeguarding people's information. Cover that. Yes, I did. You took lots of notes. And then, the last two topics, we're going to talk about your relationships with your clients, right? So, if you have any questions, by the way, I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask questions at the very end. So, the next thing we're going to talk about is your client relationships, right? This is dealing with like my soapbox of contracts, and more contracts. You should not be doing anything with anyone unless there's a contract involved. You should be having client services agreements. If you're a coach, you should be having a one-to-one client agreement. If you have a group program, you should be having a group terms of use agreement. If you have a membership site, you should be having a membership site agreement. If you have a mastermind, you should be having a mastermind agreement. People are actually signing these things, right? When you have on a group level, you can actually do it to where it's like electronic, like when people purchase your services, so it's just like a checkbox, whatever. But make sure that everything is on a contract, right? When you work with independent contractors, VAs and interns, make sure you have a contract with people, so that way, not only is it insurance for you to actually get paid, but you actually know like what the relationship actually is. You can talk, and you want to make sure you have your refund policies, your cancellation policies in that, and it really protects you because it ensures you actually know, number one, getting paid. Because a lot of times, you'll have clients that'll do chargebacks, and for whatever happened, they'll want a money back. You'll have like a non-refund policy, or say no refund policy. Then they'll go and do a charge with the credit card company, and then like you'll lose money. But if you don't have a contract to say, hey, she signed, so and so, you won't, you'll lose the battle, you lose the case. So it's very important for you to actually have a contract. So, with everybody, So, again, and these should be drafted by an attorney. Do not do it yourself. Do not go to Google and do Google lawyering. Like, pay a lawyer to actually have it, or literally come to me. That's what my new business actually is. Why I have all these like legal contract templates for, business of all sizes we actually have. So it's drafted by me, by a lawyer. So you don't want to do it yourself, especially real estate contracts. Always have an attorney look at that stuff, review it. Like, do not do anything on your own, and like let the professionals actually do it, because it literally is for your benefit. And then in the contracts, You want to also have an alternate dispute resolution. This is within any jurisdiction, right? So, typically, no matter where you are, in the U.S., the courts are so backlogged, so any type of like lawsuits are going to take like years to resolve. Okay, I used to remember my career as a corporate litigator, and I was litigating like breach of contract cases. So, there was one case I had a family law case. This case was 8 years in the court. It was like the longest divorce. This one happened to be a divorce case, and it was like it had the longest. It was the record for the longest like court case like in Miami-Dade. So you definitely want to have a choice for alternate dispute resolution, just like literally we're in and this is like the case in like all the states in different countries as well too, where you have like a panel. An arbitration panel where like there's like a panel just kind of like you have an arbitrator. Both sides like present their story and they give a recommendation, like they just settle it, right? So it's really easy. So you just want to make sure that you have that in there as well too. And of course, you want to make sure now we have COVID. We have, you also want to make sure your contract has, the force majeure language in there, which is like, talking about, excusing the party from actually performing and delivering because of like acts of God. Because now we have a pandemic, we have lockdowns, right? So, can people deliver? Actually not. So you want to make sure you're actually using contracts in there, even if it's with other countries. Like right now, I'm in the process of, getting my website for where inspiration meets law for these contracts. And the girl who's in my website is in the Philippines, right? I'm like, hey, send me a contract. She's like, oh my God, you want to? I'm like, yes, I want a contract. So, wherever money is involved, wherever there's an exchange of services, put it in writing. Do not rely upon these like back and fill emails. Do not rely upon the WhatsApp messages. Like, they don't hold water in a court of law. You want to actually work on this contract that people can actually that people actually sign it. Okay. The last thing is you want to be. Oh, by the way, if you're going to be having office space, do you have an office, by the way, in the Bahamas? Make sure you have an attorney look at your commercial lease agreements. Those agreements are so entangled and they're for such a long time, and it's very difficult to actually get out of it if you have to, right? So you want to make sure you have a lawyer actually looking at your office space, leases and things like that for warehouses or storage departments. Awesome, yeah. Make sure you definitely want to have a lawyer look at those leases agreements and see if you can ever get out of it, because when you're in one of those, you're stuck in it, and so because it's really tough to actually get out of when it comes to commercial leases. Last section is like really, this is like when you're going from by yourself, single member LLC or sole proprietor to now you're having like you're big time, right? Like you're blown up, you got an office, you got staff, you got employees for you. So this is how you now are managing your business when you start to blow up. You want to make sure that you are properly classifying people who actually work with you, right? So for example, if you have an employee, they have employment agreements, right? If you have independent contractors, they have independent contractor agreements. They know they're responsible for their taxes and not you at all. Interns are not getting paid, so it's like you are just literally you're running a tight ship. You want to have employment agreements with people, literally spelling out, and then you want to have, before you even give people, when you make an offer, give an employment letter, have an employment agreement, like have the employee actually sign it so they know exactly what they're getting, what the compensation is, what their sick days are, what they're entitled to, their benefits, what they're not entitled to. You want to have all of that in black and white and have everybody actually sign it. Then if it's in the United States for taxes, you want to have to fill out the I-9, the I-4 when they first start working, and you do not wait for that. Like within the first 3 days of employment, they actually have to sign it and it has to be sent off to the IRS. And then you want to become familiar in whatever your country are, whatever the Department of Labor laws are, the workman's compensation laws, the Disability Act, and just want to make sure you just become familiar with that, of what's permissible, what's not permissible, what's required as you are. She says, yes, I have an out clause, which I will have to use now because of COVID. Great. I'm so glad you did. Awesome. Yeah. Okay, great. I'm so glad you have that. Awesome. A lot of people are actually stuck in it. because the landlords, they want the money, they don't want people getting out of it. So they're like, no, because it's such a volatile time right now for everybody, what's happening. And then you want to look at, you want to become familiar with federal discrimination laws as well too. So, and you want to, of course, set up your payrolls for your employees and to make sure everyone's getting paid. And you just want to have all those things, like all your ducks in a row. You want to have appropriate insurances for people for workman's comp for some states, disability if it's actually required, health insurance, right? So whatever insurance, you want to get for your people, or you have to get for your people, you have to actually go ahead and get this as well too. Then you also want to establish like a media policy. You need to have a social media policy, which is super, super important now, of how your employees or even your interns, your independent contractors, of how they're actually are representing you, because social media now is like the new resume. And I have tons of friends in Miami that are all recruiters, and they just go straight to everybody's Facebook, and they do incognito. And so you want to make sure your people are actually representing you. It doesn't matter how far or how distant the relationship is, meaning if you have a very close an employee that's with you every day, or a VA that's virtual, if they're representing you, they need to act a certain way and present to you a certain way, because you know what, the buck stops and starts with you when you're an employer. And then you also want to draft an employee's handbook, right? So like letting people know what the rules and regulations are, what they can and cannot do. You want to have, if things were to happen, grievances, like how would all that be dealt with your HR, if your HR department, what the protocols are. You want to have it as well too. How to keep records of everybody. Make sure everything you're doing, it doesn't matter at what level. You want to have a paper file for everything. You also want to have everything electronically as well too. I, as an attorney, I'm forced to keep everything for 7 years. I just keep everything. When it comes to business related, like everything needs to get kept. I just do it because I have to. So you just want to keep that. You want to operate like that, where you're not deleting stuff. You're keeping everything neatly in files. And like I said, do a backup of, a paper file plus electronic, plus make sure you have a hard drive. It's backed up on a hard drive as well too. And now with COVID, you want to make sure you have COVID policies in place, as well as work from home, your intellectual property, the computers, the information, things of that nature. So because, that's what our reality is quite now, what that is. So essentially, that's really what, that's basically to legally protect your business. And so before I get into Q&A, I just want to tell you about what I'm doing. As I mentioned, that I actually have a brand new company called Where Inspiration Meets Law, and this is the premier law center to provide entrepreneurs, coaches, creatives, small business with all their legal contracts. And so what we put together is do-it-yourself legal contract templates, where all your essential documents you would need to be legally protected for your business at every level is all provided for you. It's available, like we've got different bundles, which is like more cost effective. And we also get like an a la carte service as well too. So I've got, bundles for entrepreneurs, for corporations, for business coaches, for therapists, for energy healers, for product-based businesses, right? For consultants, and you'll have all these like your website documents, your client agreements in there. So all these documents are actually in there for you, or you can actually get, or you can actually purchase the contracts on an independent basis. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put the link in there after the presentation. You can actually take a look at it and see what you're interested in, actually what you need for your business. There's also contract services we provide as well too, which is number one. If you don't see if there's a contract that you're needing that's not in it, you can actually request a custom contract. If you need an attorney to be on the phone with you to talk to your suppliers, I get called to do it all the time. I'm gonna actually put it in. I'm gonna put it in after the presentation ending, and then also too, I've got trademark services where I do the trademark registration, the copyright registration as well too, setting up a corporation. It's a full-fledged for really protecting your business. And so I'm gonna put that link in there. And so the bundles start from anywhere from $1,500, and there's about 6 to 9 document templates that are actually in there. Then it goes to like 2,500 to 5,000 to 10,000. It just depends on like which, for what you actually are looking for. So I will actually put that in there. There's also there are payment plans available as well too, except for the trademark and copyright. Those are all paying in fulls. But of course, if you pay in full, there's it's a little bit cheaper than if you actually on the payment plans. But it's a 6 month payment plan for those documents. So I'll put the link to Google Doc. You just take a look at it, and whatever you're needing on it, just give me a holler. And then if you have any questions, if you're not even sure about, hey, this is what I do, but I'm not quite sure what I actually need. And I also do a curated stuff as well, just so maybe the bundle what you need may not be all in one bundle. I can create one for you. I did it for a consultant recently in Germany, which is fine as well too. So I can do a curated bundle for you as well too. So. That's all I have. Are there any questions? So yeah, I would definitely post it in there for you. My pleasure, my pleasure. Let's see. So I'm moving as we speak. Yeah. Good for you. I'm so glad to see that you're actually able to actually get it, which is very, very important. So that's the thing now. In fact, one of the things I actually offer is actually to part of the services with not just the contracts, is to actually go to existing business and to look at your existing contracts to see, okay, what do you need? Can you actually get out of your contracts? And to see and to actually redo your current contracts to make sure you actually have an exit strategy, because right now we don't know how this is actually going to be going. So it's very problematic. It's like it's a touch and go, and so it's very, very important that everything you've been doing needs to be updated to be COVID responsive, right? Whether if it's your employee policies or your existing contracts, does it have force majeure in it? So whomever you're dealing with, your supplier contracts, make sure there is a and these are things. This is why you can't go on Google and do it yourself. This is why you need to have a lawyer actually look at it, because as I say, shit has gotten real. So you want to make sure you literally are protected. Otherwise, you'll be paying for a service, for something that you're not able to deliver. You're not able to deliver upon because hey, a country's like it's shut down. So you're so welcome. My pleasure. My pleasure. So I'm very excited. This is like I'm so passionate about this. My new baby. And it just brings me joy because I see so many people, and I've been working with corporate America for a very long time. And these people are all lawyered up, It's like they got all the lawyers, and it's like and here we have people that are leading with their hearts, that have these like passion-based businesses, and they have no protection. They don't have any contract. They have no recourses whatsoever, and they're just it's just everything. They're pouring all their heart and soul into that. They're busting their asses like they're working so hard to build something, but it's not protected, and it's like, what's the point to go through all that blood, sweat, and tears to create something, and it's not protected, and it's just exposed, and and it's like, I don't want that for people, so I'm happy to provide this service. So anything else? Thank you all for coming, and all my replay people. When you watch the replay, come and say hello, so I can welcome you as well too. And if there's nothing else, I will hop off. I've got a coaching call at 7 with my coach. Why did it go so dark? I don't know why it's did, but it just went super dark. That's weird. Anyway, I'm gonna hop off. I don't know what I just did. That's so weird. Anyway, all right, my loves. Mwah. Oh, it's all back. Okay, I'm back in color. Anyway, thank you for your time. Thanks for having me. And mwah. Bye.